Hey, I'm Olivia, and you're listening to Soarin' Around WDW. Welcome back to Soarin' Around WDW. We have a few Disney news items to discuss, but first, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much to everyone who participated in our search for a name for you guys, our fans. We had some great listener suggestions, but the final winner was Flight Crew. It was very close between Flight Crew and Frequent Flyers. So from now on, you all will be referred to as our Flight Crew, which is super fun. We love that. We are so grateful for each and every one of you out there. And every time we have an interaction with you guys, whether it's a comment on YouTube or a view on Spotify or Apple or a message on Instagram, it really makes our day and truly helps keep this show going. So we appreciate all of the love and support. Our next item of business is the winner of our 2025 Soarin' Around WDW Attraction Showdown. So the last time that we came to y'all, we had just a little bit of an update of where we were at as far as final teams. And when we got down to the Elite Eight, we ended up with Expedition Everest, Tron Light Cycle Run, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, Haunted Mansion, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, Kilimanjaro Safari, TTA People Mover, Pirates of the Caribbean. And then the final two attractions that were just decided this week were between Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. And that came down to a very close and tight race. I know these are obviously two of the most beloved attractions in the entire park, so I am not shocked at all that they made it to the finale. But the ultimate attraction winner is Pirates of the Caribbean, which is super exciting. I know I got a lot of messages saying, how do I pick? It's like almost impossible, which I totally feel you. I feel like between these two attractions, it really depends on my mood and where I'm at. But I think Pirates was a well-deserved champion and it was so much fun. So if you guys have suggestions for future bracket ideas, we have a few ideas in mind for next year, but it was really awesome to see so many people participating in the polls each week, and it just made for really fun engagement with you guys and hearing what you were surprised got kicked out, what you guys really loved versus didn't really get a lot of love. So it was a really great time. I really enjoyed it. Then back into Disney news for the parks. The parking garage fire at Disneyland that happened in the beginning of the month was still from unknown causes, and fires seem to be a more frequent occurrence lately at Disney. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully this will be the end of it and there will be no more flames that we see in the parks. While they are 100% serious and not funny at all, I did see someone overlay the France Pavilion fire with the Hell's Fire song from Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I might have laughed quite a bit, maybe. I don't know. Don't judge me, guys. It was pretty funny. But people on the internet are just too clever these days, and no one got hurt, so I felt like it was okay to laugh at that one. I'm glad everybody was okay, everyone was safe, and hopefully, again, that will be the end of all the fires. In other West Coast news, Disneyland will be offering a souvenir key that will send guests on a scavenger hunt through the park and will help them unlock the magic, so to speak. Once they hit all of the spots, one of 9 different special secret pins will be unlocked within the giant key itself. This starts May 16th and ends once the 70th celebration is over. So this gives guests the opportunity to really do the hunt all in one day or spread it across visits if you're planning to visit multiple times during the 70th celebration. So I think this is a really neat way for guests to be able to participate, especially if you're a frequent visitor or an annual pass holder over there. I think they call it magic key holder. Sorry, guys, not as familiar with the West Coast lingo, but it gives people something who are frequent to the park something really cool to do. And if you're just going specifically for the 70th anniversary, like we are, or other people that we know in the Disney content creator world are, then it's just a unique thing to do that's really special. So I think it'll be really cool. I'm excited to see how it turns out. And we might participate kind of depending on where we're at. We don't have a ton of time while we're there. So we'll see how it goes before we get there for people and whether or not we decide to do it. Club 33 is now also listed on the Disneyland app. And there are some FAQs as well as a link to a Club 33 interest form. I'm curious why they decided all of a sudden to start doing this. I don't know if it has anything to do in particular with like the Epic Universe news and they're trying to compete. Unclear, but I'm sure they got blown up with interest form submissions. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. The FAQs kind of cover what it costs to be a member, how long it can take to be a member, and yeah, I don't think that anything is changing as far as the rules and regulations of how you get into Club 33, but I do think that it's just trying to make it a little bit more known, which to those of us who have been Disney fans for a long time, we know about it. If you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you know that Regan was pining hard on the podcast for a long time to get into Club 33 for a visit with people. So we definitely still are open to that. It's not something that I was as familiar with on the East Coast. I knew about it over at Disneyland, but yeah, there we'll have to do a special episode about Club 33 and all of the history and all the inside stuff when we get to a point in our podcast where we have time for some extra content because it is super interesting if you guys haven't heard that much about it. And then more photos of the Magic Kingdom nighttime parade, Disney Starlight Dream the Night Away, have been shown and do include characters like Asha from Wish and Miguel from Coco. And we cannot wait for this parade to come to life this summer, as well as to get the chance to check it out when we get back to Disney World. So I know it's hitting this summer. We do not have another trip planned right now, or at least booked for Disney World. We're still trying to kind of figure out when we'll be back to the Disney World parks. We're going to Disneyland in June. But yeah, that is something that we definitely want to check out the next time that we go. In other news, Tron Ares, the trailer was released and is coming to theaters on October 10th, 2025. So, some new movie news. I know a lot of people are excited about this and are big fans of the Tron movies. They're not movies that we have seen all of. I've seen the more recent Tron movies, but not the earlier movies. So, it's something that we've put on our list to make sure that we watch and kind of get the chance to check out when we're able to. Disney also has announced that the Tangled live action film has been put on hold, and many people are assuming that this is due to the live action remake of Snow White tanking in the theaters, but of course that has not been confirmed by the company themselves. Eiley and I actually did go see Snow White this past week, and while I wasn't totally blown away, I did think that it was better than most people are giving it credit for. I actually loved Gal Gadot as the evil queen, and I thought that the plot changes and the lack of Prince Charming actually wasn't even that missed, honestly. I really liked the characters. I liked the character development of Snow White. The music was really good, in my opinion, and Waiting on a Wish has been in my head for weeks afterwards and is frequently requested by Eiley in the car. So while it might not be my favorite live action, it wasn't the worst, and I hope it doesn't totally sway Disney away from doing live action movies and discontinuing these movies altogether. Could I live without the live action movies? Sure, I definitely prefer the animated movies that they're doing versus the live action remakes, but I do much prefer movies like Cruella that are an original plot point but live action versus like remakes like Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, and things like that. Although Beauty and the Beast is my favorite of all the live actions, don't come for me with that. I know people have very strong opinions about that movie and Emma Watson's performance, but I really, really love it. And overall, I did really love Snow White. I thought it was good. Maybe love is a strong word. I liked Snow White. I thought it was good. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. For some context, I gave the new Moana like a 6 out of 10, I think. So I liked it better than that. I enjoyed it. I really loved the music though, so that was high on the list for sure. And then Woody's Lunchbox expansion phase 1 is open. So the first section of covered seating debuted earlier this month with more to come soon. As well as they did announce that airport luggage transfer service is being offered to all value resort guests flying Southwest out of MCO to start, which is interesting considering that Southwest also just got rid of its 3 free checked bag perk. So I don't know, now you're paying for your checked bag, but then if you're staying at a value resort, you can get it transferred. I don't know that that super makes sense. It sounds like they're going to be expanding it to more than just Southwest flights eventually. They're just kind of piloting it with Southwest and with the value resorts. I'm glad they're giving values another perk. I was very surprised by this, but interested to see how this goes and what people think of it. Of course, it's no surprise that in our episode today, we discuss the Voyage of the Little Mermaid show. It is going to reopen, and they have announced that it is coming May 27th to Hollywood Studios. It'll be called, as we discussed in this episode today, that y'all will hear, The Little Mermaid, a Musical Adventure. Seems like from the stuff that they released in the last few weeks, it will be a similar, like, blacklight puppetry show. And there will be a couple of new songs that weren't in the original show that they bring into this one. We will see. Time will tell. They did also, in the news for Hollywood Studios, go ahead and update us that the Villains show, Unfairly Ever After is what it will be called, is also debuting May 27th, 2025. So if anyone thinks, those dates sound super familiar, what else is going on that weekend? Well, that is also the weekend that Epic Universe is launching. And it seems like a stretch, but my guess is they are trying to compete with Epic Universe. I don't know that a new Little Mermaid show and the Villain show are going to compete, but maybe it will drive more people to be checking those out that weekend. I'm sure they're trying to get influencers to go ahead and be there and film footage and stuff like that on the opening weekend there as well. I don't know. It seems like a little bit unrealistic that they think that's going to compete with Epic Universe. So we'll see. Who knows? Speaking of Epic Universe, previews happened the first week of April. And although we are a Disney podcast, we will be having a special guest to talk all things Disney in a few weeks, who also happened to be there at the Epic Universe Family and Friends preview. And she will get to tell us all about her experience. So I'm really looking forward to that. Excited to see what she thought getting to go in person, but that will be coming here in the next couple of weeks. And finally, we do have an exciting surprise coming to YouTube here as well in a few weeks. This has been a request from listeners, friends, and family over the last few months, and without giving too much away, it might go along with our most popular YouTube video that we have on the channel overall. So if you don't already, head on over to YouTube, hit subscribe, and see what has been most watched, and then look out for our announcement and a new video coming to YouTube soon. So that's it for this week's Disney news. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. We are wrapping up Hollywood Studios, talking about Animation Courtyard, as well as our top 5 and bottom 5 for Hollywood Studios. And I'm curious to see if y'all's hold up to ours. It might be different than many people's opinions, but this is my favorite park, and Dad really loves this park as well. So it was fun to get to discuss with him. But enjoy the episode. All right, everybody, happy Wednesday. So today we are wrapping up Hollywood Studios with our last Parks of the Present episode for this park. And we have one more section to cover before we kind of do a little run through of some final thoughts on Hollywood Studios. But the last section that we have to talk about is Animation Courtyard. So this section of the park originally was the starting point for the studio backlot tour and was the former home of the Magic of Disney animation. Now all of that has gone. I think this is the area which we can talk about too as we go through it, but that has a lot of work to be done. I think it's fairly empty for a very large space and has just kind of sat vacant, a lot of space within it for a lot of years now. And some of the things that they have there are just not necessarily big hitting attractions. Any of the things they have there are not big hitting attractions. But wanted to start off with one that most people might walk by and not even know is there. It's called Walt Disney Presents, and this first opened October 1st, 2001. Walt Disney Presents is an interactive gallery exhibit located in Animation Courtyard, and it features memorabilia from Disney archives. So the gallery displays artifacts from Walt Disney's life as well as the history of the company. It goes from his birth in 1901 all the way through the company's vision for the future. And it also does include the Walt Disney Theater, which shows a 15-minute short film of Walt Disney and explores the different hardships that he overcame to be where he is today, as well as previously unseen footage, including Walt Disney talking about the creation of Mickey Mouse. So it is a lot of history in this area. Michael Eisner initially, when it first came out in 2001, was the actual like narrator of this video, and that ended in 2005 when he was no longer the CEO at Walt Disney Company, And now Julie Andrews, which I love that they picked her, she is now the narrator since 2005 all the way through today. It did open up being called Walt Disney One Man's Dream for Walt Disney World's 100 Years of Magic celebration. And some of the artifacts on display include a model of Main Street USA from Disneyland, an Academy Award for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the original Abraham Lincoln audio animatronic from Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, and a model of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. So lots of different stuff that they have kind of on display throughout this little walkthrough attraction before you get to the short film portion of it. And occasionally the short film will be preempted and the theater will instead show different sneak peeks of film releases that are coming from Disney. The gallery does also feature upcoming attractions to Disney Hollywood Studios, including a full model of Toy Story Land, a model building for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, artwork for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and a model of the Disney Cruise Line's fifth cruise ship, the Disney Wish, which was the newest until the Disney Treasure just was released. So most recently, some of the artwork from Inside Out 2 was swapped for artwork from the new movie Moana 2 that came out last year in 2024. And the artifacts that are used in this exhibit, most of the original ones, like the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea Academy Award, the original model for Disneyland's Main Street, all came from California on an Airbus A300 that was named the Spirit of Imagination. And all of those artifacts were previously on display at the Walt Disney Family Museum or at Disneyland itself. Have you ever been to the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco, Dad?
No, I will get there someday. I know I would really enjoy it, but I've never been to San Francisco, so I've never been out that way other than the Los Angeles area when I was a little kid. But other than that, never been out there.
Yeah, it's really cool. We went there when we did our big West Coast trip in 2018, and we plan to go back this summer kind of on our route when we're in California. And so I'm really looking forward to going back because it was really cool. And I think I could have spent a lot more time there. We will have the kids with us, so I don't know how long we'll be able to spend in there. I'm sure I will always want to spend more time, but it is really cool. And they have a lot of really neat stuff, little models on display, and just like a lot of Disney history. So if you are ever in the San Francisco area, I highly recommend it for sure to any listeners out there who haven't been. And while there's no queue for the actual attraction, the Walt One Man's Dream Walt Disney Presents attraction, you will need to use one inside if you decide to take part in the character meet and greet that is held here kind of on the other side of the theater. The characters who greet at this meet and greet area always change and usually are connected to the most recent movie release. So right now, it's actually the live action Little Mermaid. I'm surprised they haven't changed it yet, but that's who is there currently. And if you look closely when you're walking through this attraction, Walt's second grade desk is there, and you can see where he carved his initials in it, like many kids do and or did. I know they don't really have as many desks nowadays. It's more like tables than individual desks at most schools. But after you're done touring the attraction, you can also ask a cast member to give you a trivia quiz. And if you pass, you'll win a certificate. This is according to WDW Prep School when I was doing some research. I did not know this. I think it would be kind of fun to see what the trivia is. I'm sure it's about what you saw when you were walking through the attraction. But that's something neat. I do remember going in this a few times. I know often when I walk by, there's not a ton of people in there, but most of the pictures that I saw of it recently when I was looking up stuff online, there were a good number of people, which is great. But you've been in this a few times, right, Dad?
Yeah, I never miss it when I'm there at Hollywood Studios. I know it sounds silly, but it's probably one of my favorite things to walk through and spend time with. And I could spend a couple hours in there because I love all the old stuff, the details, the history. And this is all the real, most of this is the real items from back in the day. It's not some mock-up or something, which is super cool. And I love the little models of all the attractions before they were built. All the Imagineers, they built these small models to kind of lay everything out. There's so much to see. I know a lot of people just kind of probably just wander through there. Well, it's not a big deal, but for someone that's a real Disney fan, I've always really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to getting over there again and checking it out and spending some time in there.
Yeah, I think it's something that I haven't done in the last few years, but now I'm looking forward to getting to do it next time we go. I think as I was reading more about it, I was like, oh yeah, I would definitely love this. I know we're always kind of rushing around the park when we're at Hollywood Studios and there's a lot to do there, but this is definitely something that is a good little air conditioning break and you also get to see some really interesting stuff. But yeah, I agree. It's definitely something that you don't want to miss if you get the chance to stop by, especially if you're interested in Disney history. And then the next attraction is the Star Wars Launch Bay. This opened December 1st, 2015. And this is something that, again, Star Wars is just kind of all over the place in this park between Star Tours being separated from Galaxy's Edge and then Star Wars Launch Bay being over in this animation courtyard. It all kind of seems a little disjointed. And I don't really love that it's placed here. I wish they would have made space for it over in Galaxy's Edge. But this is an interactive walkthrough attraction based on obviously the Star Wars franchise. And it was formerly at Shanghai Disneyland Park as well as Disneyland. But the Orlando version temporarily closed due to COVID, March 13th, 2020, and then reopened July 17th, 2022. The building during that time was used as this relaxation station and allowed guests to safely remove their facial coverings while remaining distant. So they kind of shut the whole thing down during that time. It did actually replace the magic of Disney animation, which was this area where you could walk through and watch people really animate movies for Disney. There were real life artists who were working on animation for different films. We did cover this in our Hollywood Studios Parks of the Past series, but now it is used for different models for the Star Wars fans, as well as there is a Launch Bay cargo shop, three separate character greeting spots, and then a little short film kind of summarizing the Star Wars franchise. The three characters that kind of hold court there are Chewbacca, Darth Vader, and BB-8. And you wait in line for each one individually, and they can run to about 20 to 30 minutes, especially Chewbacca and Darth Vader. BB-8, I think, is usually a little shorter, but it's basically a very large meet and greet area. And it all is pretty much indoors. I think you walk outdoors for a tiny section of it to kind of get back into it. I have never been back in this since it's become Star Wars. I do remember it as the magic of Disney animation, but it's not something that I would typically do. I do think that this is one of the things that could easily go tomorrow or be moved into a different space and it would work better. But where it is, I think it's just so far away from Galaxy's Edge and everything, it just doesn't really make sense anymore. So, have you been in this, Dad, since it was this Star Wars launch bay?
Yes, probably not long after it opened. I remember going in there. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, as I mentioned before, so I saw it. I'm good.
Yeah, that's how I feel like it's just one of those things that unless you're this big Star Wars fan, I just don't. It's a huge space. So I was looking actually at YouTube videos of it since I've never been back there since it was redone. And I can't believe the amount of space that this is taking up just for basically a meet and greet. So I wish that they could do this differently, repurpose this space, which we'll get into in a little bit too, what, could go there or what we want to do with that space in future episodes. But yeah, that's the other second attraction over there. And then the third attraction is the Disney Junior Play and Dance. This name has changed. It's been very similar over the years. Disney Junior Playhouse, Disney Junior Dance Party, Disney Junior Play and Dance, and currently features characters from Mickey and the Roadster Racers, Sophia the First, which was also, I think right now it's replaced by Vampirina, Doc McStuffins, and the Lion Guard. And again, they switch out different Disney Junior shows every couple of years. And then they have a little meet and greet area outside of it where you can meet most of these characters, which we'll talk about when we get to the character section. But it says that the runtime is about 24 minutes. I think there's like a little pre-show when you're kind of sitting, but then the actual show is not even that long. I took the kids to this last year because I wanted Blake to be able to see it. I had not been in it since Regan was young, so a really long time ago. And you sit on the floor, there's no seats. It holds about 2,200 people, but it's rarely ever full. I couldn't believe that it supposedly held that many people. You basically just have to wait in line for the next show to open, but usually you can get in. I think they close the doors maybe like 5 minutes or 2 minutes, something like that, before the show starts. So just something to consider if you're timing it out. And the times are all on the Disney Experience app. But I thought the show was cute. I think it's a fun thing for kids, especially if there's not that much to do without a height restriction at Hollywood Studios other than shows and Toy Story Mania, and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Everything else is just shows for little kids. So it's something that you can do to get out of the air conditioning if one parent is with the older kid kind of going through it. I've seen this show just once last year. I thought it was cute. I know at the end, spoiler alert, but Mickey comes out and he's dancing and singing along, and the kids go crazy. And so it was fun, but it's not something that we do every single time we go. It just kind of depends where we're at in the day if we have time. I know last year, so Eiley was about to be 5. She was already kind of looking at me like this is a little hokey, but Blake, who was about to be 2, was super into it. So she really liked it. But I'm guessing you have not been back in this since Makayla was really little. Is that true?
Yeah, we took her when she was about 2,
Yeah.
and she started dancing around, and I mean, people are cracking up because she was just really into it. Just at that age where you don't care, people are laughing
Yeah.
at you. But yeah, it was cute. You're right. If you don't have a little one, it's keep on walking, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it's a skip if you don't have kids. It's not worth waiting for. And then the last attraction in this area is the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, which first opened January 7th, 1992. It is supposed to be returning here soon. It says summer 2025. And we didn't include this in our Parks of the Past episode because technically it is coming back. There was a lot of question when they were talking about building Monstropolis of is that going to be here in the animation courtyard and they're going to get rid of Launch Bay and the Voyage of the Little Mermaid to make space for that? Or is it going to be where Muppets is? And now we know it's going to be where Muppet Vision 3D is. So they did say we are reopening it. Initially, they had said fall 2024. Then in October, they said, nope, it's going to be summer 2025. I don't really know what the holdup is. I know they are redoing it a little bit, but it did close just during COVID, March 15th, 2020. And the show kind of starts out with this pre-show that follows artifacts, including King Triton's trident. The guests then go into the actual theater where the show begins. And because there's special effects that are involved in this attraction, guests are asked to remain seated during the entire performance. So they really don't want you getting up and getting out, letting light in, because a lot of this initial show that first came is this black light puppetry. And so if you open the door and shine the light, it kind of gives everything away. They also obviously don't want any flash photography or anything, but they do sing the Oscar winning song Under the Sea. They then sang Part of Your World, and they do have live actors and actresses who are up there performing for this. I don't know that they're actually singing. I can't remember, but they're either lip syncing or actually singing the music. I don't know which one. And then they do have this gigantic puppet of Ursula that is 12 feet tall and 10 feet wide. And then at the end of the show, they have this big curtain of falling water and I believe bubbles back in the day that allowed guests to kind of return to the surface and see like the ending scene of Ariel and Eric. And the newer version will still be based on the animated classic. There was a lot of talk of whether or not this would switch to the live action version, but I think since the live action Little Mermaid didn't get a lot of love, they decided to keep it as the animated classic. And the Disney website describes it as relive Ariel's enchanting story in this dazzling theatrical production inspired by the animated classic The Little Mermaid. So it's not anything new from the live action version that I can tell. None of the music, it doesn't seem. And it does look like it will be renamed to, instead of Voyage of the Little Mermaid, The Little Mermaid, A Musical Adventure is what it will be called now. So I have not been to this. Maddie said he's never been in it. So I guess in a really long time since I was a kid. But my kids love Ariel. So I'm excited that this is coming back. It's been sitting empty for 5 years now. So it'll be good to have something in that theater. But I'm guessing you saw this probably same thing as Disney Junior when Makayla was really little.
We never took her there. The only time I ever been in there was with you, both you and Regan when you were little. I think we went in there maybe. I know we went once. I don't remember going back. So I think there was so many other things to do that I thought that were much more superior. Yeah, yeah. I can talk more about that later, but I was never overly thrilled with this attraction.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, compared to all the other stage shows like we've talked about, Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback, Indiana Jones, and even the Lights Motor Action Stunt Show, and then you go into this and it's kind of a little like, okay, it's not the most amazing show, but it is cute, something to represent the Little Mermaid. And then the dining in this area is very slim. It kind of is shared with the Pixar Plaza area, so I don't know, but according to the map, this is what's in Animation Courtyard. There's a little market, and the biggest thing that sells there is the Jack Jack Num Num cookie, which is $7. It's this massive cookie. And then chips, nacho chips with cheese, bananas, and fountain beverages. They do have some alcoholic options here also, but I've never tried the Jack Jack Num Num cookie. I feel like that is high on my list to try. Have you tried that, Dad? It's like a giant warm cookie.
Chocolate chip cookies. I don't know what kind of cookie this is, but the day I fork out $7 for a cookie, this is
Yeah,
probably not going to happen. Maybe if I, if we bought one, we'd probably have to split it amongst, two or three people.
yeah, it's pretty big. And then Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company is kind of on the border of the Animation Courtyard and Pixar Plaza. And this serves lattes, including the Round 'em Up latte, espressos, coffee, and different pastries. They do have some spirited beverages as well that include an espresso martini, tea breeze, and a strawberry lemon sunset. So kind of a little bit of a variety of different drinks there, but that's really all that they serve besides some pastries, kind of like a normal coffee stand, which I've never stopped here either because we're not big coffee people. But that's really all they have for dining. There is no true quick service. There is no true sit down in this area. I feel like that's something that definitely would be a good addition somewhere over there. But the characters in this section, as we talked about, the live action Little Mermaid is there with the Walt Disney Presents One Man's Dream. That's on the other side of that, kind of where the old tour of the movie sets used to be, the Narnia movie, the Haunted Mansion. That's where that meet and greet is, but it's attached within One Man's Dream now. And then Vampirina, Doc McStuffins, Fancy Nancy, and Pluto are all right outside of the Disney Junior show, and you do have to wait individually, I believe, for each of them. The only one we've ever done over here is Pluto because my kids at the time didn't even know who those other characters are. I do wish that they'd update it again. I know Bluey isn't technically owned by Disney. They just have the rights to play it on Disney Plus, but I think a Bluey meet and greet or some kind of Bluey show would be a huge hit because that's like people go crazy for that right now. And my kids would definitely go crazy for that. And then obviously in the Star Wars launch bay is BB-8, Darth Vader, and Chewbacca as well. So that's all kind of right in that section, a lot of different characters, but that's really all over in that section at all. So it's a very sad section, in my opinion. It's a section of the park that could use a total overhaul. That's why I was a little disappointed that they didn't choose to put the Monsters Inc. area here, because truth be told, they could get rid of this whole section, and I think nobody would be that sad about it. And they could have done something totally different. They've got all that space back there where the animation offices are. There's a lot that could go in this area. So when we do eventually get to our Parks of the Future episode and we're talking about what we would want to do with the parks, I think this section is an area that needs a lot of love. What do you think, Dad?
Yeah, worst part of the park. You're right. There's just not much going on there. A restaurant, I think, would be, if they could come up with a really fun and interesting restaurant idea, like a sit down type restaurant idea in that area that would bring people over in that area, maybe spread things out a little bit. Because as you know, Hollywood studios can get very busy and it's very hot there in the summer. There's not a lot of places to hide. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that needs some help for sure.
Yeah. So that is the wrap up of Animation Courtyard. And now just kind of hopping into some final thoughts when I was thinking back on Hollywood Studios and some things that I might have missed in talking about. First, I wanted to talk about how Hollywood Studios is seems to be obsessed with trap doors. And I realized this when I saw a few weeks ago when I was with Eiley at the Hollywood Studios park watching Indiana Jones and the stunt action spectacular. And the bad guy in the last scene still does die and go down the elevator shaft. So I don't know why they took that out temporarily or if that was true or not, but I can debunk that he still does fly down that elevator shaft. And then back in the day, that reminded me that the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast show used to go down a trap door and they'd put kind of the blanket with the enchantress over him, that he would fly down the trap door and up would come the Prince Adam, so to speak, or the, prince instead of the beast form. And then they got rid of that. Now they just kind of like move the curtain and move them along. It's a little less exciting. And then obviously in Phantasmic, there's a huge elevator shaft with Mickey kind of going from one section to another, having to fly up and down this elevator shaft on the mountain. So it is a lot of like trap doors and different things that they have, which make it really fun and magical. I think as a kid, you're like, whoa, where did they go? Or how did that happen? So I am sad they got rid of the Beauty and the Beast one. I don't know if, again, some accident happened and that's what caused them to get rid of it. But yeah, that was just something that I thought of when we were talking about the different stuff in Hollywood studios. Was there anything that you wanted to add about Hollywood studios or anything about this park in general, Dad?
The trapdoor thing at Phantasmic, I think there was an accident there where I think it was in dress rehearsals where Mickey, the person playing Mickey, broke his leg.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
I heard about that. I think a long time ago. So those trapdoors, it can be a little tricky, no pun intended. But no, I know Hollywood Studios is your favorite park. A lot of your favorite attractions are there. I think it's come a long ways from what it used to be. It was it was a much more of a simpler park back in the day. But I really enjoy it. It's probably my second favorite park out of all four parks at this point. Magic Kingdom will always be number one for me, but I would put Hollywood Studios clearly number two for me.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it is my favorite park. I think it has changed a lot. Obviously, we talked about that kind of in our first episode, how the vision of behind the scenes has moved into now you are in the movie, but I still really love it. I love the attractions. Even talking as we get into our top five, bottom five, I had a hard time choosing top five because I really love these shows. I love the attractions, and I just think the movie's theme is so fun. So, moving into top five, bottom five. Again, this was difficult for me. And Dad and I did talk before this about does Phantasmic count as an attraction because it's technically listed on the map, but we decided it wouldn't since we kind of consider it more of a nighttime show. If Phantasmic was included, it would be number one for me, I think. That's just my favorite always, and I think it's the best ever. But the top attractions that I decided to go with are number one, Tower of Terror. That is my top attraction in all four parks. I love it. The theming, the actual ride. It's great. I think it's such a fun one. Then number two is Toy Story Mania. Just I think because it's re-rideable. I love going on it every time I go. I have fun. And so that one it's been great for a long time. Then we have Slinky Dog Dash is my number three. Rise of the Resistance is number four. And then Beauty and the Beast, the stage show, just because I still love it. Bella's my favorite princess. I still get a kick out of going every single time that we go to the park. I have to go and see it. And so those are my top five. But what are your top five, Dad?
And just so everyone knows, we didn't talk about these before this, so this is
We
going to
did
be
not.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
A top five Hollywood Studios for me. Tower of Terror,
Okay.
clearly number one. Rise of the Resistance, when it's working, it breaks down a lot from what I hear.
Yeah.
But the one time I've gone on it, I thought it was unbelievable of all the different things that we've talked about that at length already. But I just think it's, even if you're not a fan, you got to go on it at least once. You'll probably want to go on it many more times. Indiana Jones Stunt Show,
Okay.
a lot of fond memories. We typically go there. We always go there. I wish we could go up there and get on the show again like we did back in the day, because I would probably try and get up there again. Toy Story Mania, for a lot of the reasons that Olivia mentioned. It's very re-rideable. And someday I'll beat my wife on a score, but I haven't beat her yet in all these years. And the last one, Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I know I had a hard time deciding between the Beauty and the Beast and Indiana Jones, but I was like, I have to go with Beauty and the Beast because it's just my favorite. But I love Indiana Jones so much. So that was a tough for me. That's an honorable mention for me. And then my bottom five, again, maybe I cheated a little on this because not all of them people would consider attractions. But number one, I picked Launch Bay. I think that can go. Happy to see Star Wars Launch Bay get out of here. Number two is for the first time in forever, the Frozen sing-along show. I could definitely do without that. Number three is Star Tours. And along the same line, number four is Millennium Falcon, mostly because I just can't do the screens. Not necessarily because the attraction is not good, but for me, it's just not one that I'd be fine never riding them again. And then number five, I put Alien Swirling Saucers. I almost put Vacation Fun, the little shorts thing, but I thought that was kind of a cop out. So I ended up picking Alien Swirling Saucers. So what did you pick as your top or your bottom five, Dad?
Well, again, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. Aliens, swirling saucers. It's just basically, taking a standard ride and putting the Disney touch on it. Let's call it what it is, right? Star Wars launch bay. They can launch that, right out to space. I'd be fine with that. Uh, I put on here the Little Mermaid. Sorry, Olivia. I know that's something your kids like, but you don't have to. They don't have to get rid of it. I just don't need to go to it again.
Yeah.
Disney Junior play and dance. Unless we're going with Blake, I just don't see me going there again unless I'm going there with your kids. And of course, a Frozen sing along. Even though I thought some of the jokes were pretty funny because I'm a kind of a joking, cheesy kind of one liner guy. Uh, yeah, I saw it once. I'm good. I'll never have to go to that again because yeah, I don't know why that continues to be as popular as it is because it was really full when we were there last January. But yeah, so those are my five.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It's kind of hard sometimes to think like I agree, like Disney Junior Dance and Play, if I didn't have little kids, that could definitely go. So there's a lot of things that could be changed in this park, but for the most part, the big attractions, a lot of the e-tickets are just unreal. I think they did a really good job, like we talked about last week with Toy Story and Galaxy's Edge. It's just like unbelievable what they've done with some of this stuff. And then the shows I just really love. I think if Frozen was live actors like we talked about before as well, I'd like it more. But I really love the live acting, singing, dancing type of shows. And Fantasmic is just the best to me, which is a huge piece of why this park is my favorite. It's just the nighttime show is unreal. So yeah, that's a little bit about Hollywood Studios and some of our favorite stuff. I think the most ideal way to spend your time at Hollywood Studios if you're planning a trip here would be to try to get there early and rope drop one either Star Wars or Toy Story Land, depending on what your family and the ages of the people in your party like more. For me, I think the Lightning Lane multipass for this park is well worth it. I think it's worth skipping some of the more expensive things throughout your trip to be able to get that because you really can do a lot in this park. You can do everything in one day if you get Lightning Lane multipass, including the shows for the most part. I mean, Eiley and I did just about every attraction in half a day the other day. And obviously, challenge runners, we do all the attractions, but I'm talking about the shows as well. I highly recommend Fantasmic. Anyone who it's their first trip to Disney World, if they're doing a Hollywood Studios day and they're like, oh, well, we're tired, we want to go back to the hotel. I say, really, you're missing out if you don't stay for Fantasmic. There's usually two shows. If you can go to the later one, if your kids will stay up, depending on how old they are, it's less crowded. If not, go to that early show and head out early for the day. But it is really an amazing show, and it's just something not to be missed. And again, not a lot for little ones. So if you only have little ones and you don't want to do a bunch of rider swap, I see why people might want to skip this park, but I would at least split it with another park or do part of the day at the hotel, at the pool, or take a nap and come back for Fantasmic, something like that. But there's enough to do that even with little kids, between the meet and greets and the shows and a couple of attractions they can go on, I think it's worth it for sure. There's some good food, good themed restaurants here, so just a lot of good stuff going on in Hollywood Studios and a lot of cool stuff to come with Monsters Inc. I think that area will be really cool. If it's anything like Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land, it's gonna blow us away, I'm sure, which is awesome. But yeah, any final thoughts, Dad, or things that you think people should not miss when they go for the first time to Hollywood Studios or go back?
As you mentioned, you have to do Fantasmic. I think a lot of people would pay pretty good money just to go see that show
Yeah,
alone.
I would.
You spend $25 or once or $50 just to go see that. Once they've seen it, it'll blow you away. We've been there. You've been there multiple times. Uh, there's a reason for that. It's just very well done. And it's a chance to see a lot of the characters that you never really get a chance to see. And you see them all together at the end.
Yeah,
It's pretty emotional if you're a big Disney fan to see all the characters. I remember that when you kids were little and when Makayla was little, and the look on their face when they see all the characters come on the steamboat, the big paddle wheeler. And for people who never saw the show, and that's the way it ends, it's pretty cool. And then, of course, at the end, I believe Mickey's on the top, right? And he disappears at
yeah,
the end, which is like, and that's kind of where it all shuts down. It's like, wow, when you hear people talking about it all the way out as you're walking back to your out to your car, and people are all talking like, wow, that was really something. So, but yeah, I love the park, as I mentioned, Tower of Terror and all the different attractions. Yeah, but you got to hang in there. Let the kids have a nap ahead of time if you have to. You got to get to Fantasmic and do that. So
yeah, I agree. I think we're gonna have to do an entire Phantasmic episode because, yeah, that show is just so good. And even though I just saw it with Eiley a few weeks ago, it always makes me emotional. I remember going back and seeing it with Regan, and Steph after I hadn't seen it since it was redone, and it had been years since I had seen it, and just sobbing, which is people might think is so poetic, but just so good. All the memories from my childhood and being there with my kid and watching it with her. It was just Regan and I just looked at each other and started crying, and Maddie and Steph were kind of rolling their eyes at us because it's just something very special to Regan and I for sure. So yeah, it's so good. It's definitely worth it. But yeah, I could wax poetic about Phantasmic for another hour, but we'll save that for another episode. So that is our wrap up of Hollywood Studios. Thanks so much, guys, for listening. And we hope that you guys learned something new about the park and about something that you want to try next time that you go. I know we did a really fun snack run when I was in Magic Kingdom with Eiley and got to try a bunch of snacks at Magic Kingdom, but now I've added a lot of things to the list for Hollywood Studios as well. So a lot of fun snacks and different things that I want to try. But that is all for this week, and we will catch up with you guys next week.
see you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at SoarinAroundWDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.